Are you curious about the 4-6 profile and what this little fraction looking number means for you? Well, don't worry, you're in the right place because by the end of this video, you'll get the answers to the following questions. What is the 4-6 profile? What are the characteristics of the 4-6 profile? What's the public role and leadership style of the 4-6 profile? What are the keys to health and happiness for 4-6s? And we'll also end with a couple of examples of famous 4-6s so that you can see how this might be played out in real life. So if you enjoy this video and want to continue to learn and deepen your understanding of human design, I'd be so grateful if you could show me some love, hit that like button, and subscribe to my channel. Hey everyone, and welcome back. My name is Crystal Alferrero. I'm founder of the Human Design Academy, and I help people like yourselves understand their unique energetic blueprint through the human design system. Profiles and lines in human design have grown to be one of my favorite things to dive into and talk about because there's just so much insight that you can get from this particular aspect of your design, from your approach to life, to how you think and learn, to your life path, to even your bonding strategy, and so much more. It's also known to represent your public role and the costume you wear in this life. So I'm going to be doing a series on all 12 of the profiles to help you learn a little bit more about yourself or your loved ones. In this video, we'll be looking at the 4-6 profile. I have a natural harmony with the 4-6 profile as a 1-3, and I've worked with many 4-6s who I find are people that you can easily gravitate towards because of their genuine warmth and friendliness. So if you're ready to explore more, let's just dive in. What is the 4-6 profile? Well, the 4-6 profile is the opportunist role model, and opportunist role models have the potential to be an important and influential model of what it means to live a conscious life as your unique, authentic self. Relationships are really important to them, and they tend to be or get some of the greatest opportunities in their life directly from their social network. So they come across to others as friendly, and this is what makes them so natural at networking and connecting with others. And it's really not like they need to go out there and create their network and do this in this conscious way. Not that they don't see it in themselves, but it's just something that naturally shows up when they're living in alignment and following their strategy and authority. And what they might not be aware of about themselves is that they experience life through these 3 distinct and sometimes challenging phases that are ultimately meant to lead them into becoming a role model for the people within their community, within their realm of influence. So what does the 4-6 profile consist of? Well, the 4-6 profile consists of the conscious line 4 opportunist and the unconscious line 6 role model, which come together to create the opportunist role model profile. And just to give you a quick recap, each of the 6 lines of the hexagram have a specific frequency or flavor, and it's in this unique combination that the profile's created. It's the last of the 7 personal profiles, which means that they have a life theme that's focused on self-discovery and self-growth, and they're here to fulfill a personal destiny. Within the 4-6 profile, the 4th line is the opportunist archetype, and this represents their conscious personality, the mind, and how they think. Because it's the number on the top part of the fraction, this is what is related to their conscious personality. So again, this side of their nature is something that they're conscious of. They have conscious access to this side of themselves. It's the friendly, social, and stability-seeking part of them whose quality of life is directly tied to the quality of their relationships. You know, they find the most satisfaction through their network and through their relationships, and this is a huge part of what brings them the stability that they seek in life. On the other hand, the 6th line is the role model archetype, and this represents their unconscious design, the body, and their physical experience because it's on the bottom number of this fraction. So this side of their nature is not something that they have conscious access to, but it's that automatic script that just moves them without them having that conscious awareness of it. So you can think of the role model kind of like that Buddha archetype that goes through that 3-stage life process where in the first 30 years of their life, it's experienced as trial and error, and going through this trial and error process in order to discover things, right? Then we move on to the 2nd stage, and this is all about taking that step back to reflect and integrate all of the lessons and things that they've learned from that first stage. Then all of this kind of leads them into that third stage of life at around 50 or the time of their Chiron return. And it's when they go back out there and integrate with the world and share the wisdom that they've gathered. It's where they're essentially here to be this influential role model and be an example of what it means to be your unique, authentic self. Your profile is also something that you grow into. So it's said that in theory, the needs of the conscious line often need to be fulfilled first in order to live out the highest expression of the unconscious line. So in the case of a 4-6, throughout their lifetime, it's all about establishing a strong network and genuine connections to give them the stability and grounding that they need to fulfill their path as this influential role model and have the opportunity to influence the right people. But obviously at the end of the day, you don't have to think about this too hard because both sides work together side by side. And the way that you're gonna live out the highest potential of this profile is by following your personal strategy and authority. Next, what are the characteristics of the conscious line 4 in their profile? Well, on a conscious level, the line 4 opportunist is the part of them that's all about foundations. So the line 4 is on the bottom part of the upper trigram, which is all about seeking foundations and seeking a solid foundation in order to get stability. So it's important for them to be well prepared before making changes in their life rather than just jumping in kind of like the line 3 might. They don't tend to act as spontaneously as the line 3s, but rather need to move from one foundation to another before making any big changes in their life. So it's often recommended for a line 4 to, not leave a new job, or not leave your job until you have a new job, not leave a relationship until you have a new relationship. That's kind of the nature of these 4th lines. They just prefer not to move and make sudden changes until they know where they're going, because the unknown is very uncomfortable for them. And as a 4th line, there's also a frequency of kindness and friendliness at its highest expression. And this is what helps them build genuine relationships and networks with ease. And it's through these relationships that they find the key to their fulfillment and success. They have a lifetime process of also getting to the foundation of what it means to be in relationships, because they care for others deeply, and really at their best, these are your most consistent, stable, and loyal friends. In a low expression, the 4th line can be overly sensitive or even mean and fragile if they've gone through life engaging with the wrong people or the wrong networks. Their friendliness and care for others can leave them vulnerable to other people who might not reciprocate or might not treat them with respect, and then cause them to be cold to other people based on those past experiences. So again, it's important for them to follow their strategy and authority to naturally guide them to the right environments, the right networks, and the right people, so that they can feel free to really open themselves up and share their light, shine their light with the right people who will welcome them with open arms. Next, what are the characteristics of the unconscious line 6 of their profile? Well, the unconscious line 6 has a unique 3-stage life process that eventually prepares them to evolve into a role model for others. So the first 30 years of their life, in other words, that first stage, is lived like a line 3 martyr, just constantly bumping into things, sampling life, and learning through trial and error. And during this first stage, they might unconsciously feel a lot of conflict with that 4th line nature, because the 3rd line is all about bumping into things, while the 4th line is one that seeks stability and doesn't really enjoy those changes and those transitions. But really the purpose of this part of their life, the stage of their life, is to gather the life experiences that they need, because as they move into that second stage from around the ages of 30 to 50, this is where it becomes a time of just reflection and observation and healing and integration. And, we use this analogy of climbing up onto the roof from that experimenting in the kitchen, being on the roof and having that bigger vantage point, that bigger picture to really just take a look around and do a review of the last 30 years of their life in order to transform those experiences into wisdom that's meant to be shared with others. So again, while they're on the roof, they start to just really ease into life a lot more and establish a more solid sense of stability. And they also do this through establishing their careers, maybe in this stage, their family, building a community of trusted friends and supporters. This is when life starts to get a little bit more easeful and foundational for them, stable for them. By the age of 50, they bloom into their full potential as a role model for others, particularly for those who are in their network. So again, their network is where they create the most impact. This is when they come back off the roof and reintegrate with everyone else. This is where they reach the peak of their greatness and share all the wisdom that they've gained throughout the years. And again, it's with people that they've established that relationship and trust with. This is where their impact holds the most influence and gives them the ability, the path to becoming a true role model who inspires others. In a lower expression of the sixth line, it can look like someone who's just bored and impulsively bumping into things in the first stage of their life, or in the later stages, it might even look like being pessimistic and distant and detached from reality if they haven't taken that time to take a step back and integrate and heal from their previous experiences. So again, it's important to be guided by their strategy and authority in order to discern what people to engage with and what experiences to engage with. So if you have a 4-6 profile, let me know down in the comments how you experience this. Next, what is the public role and leadership style of the 4-6 profile? Well, the public role of the 4-6 is to be an influencer leader. So someone who's here to influence those who surround them with their wisdom and with their hearts. And their leadership style is to lead by example, which for the sixth line is known as the administrator, and also to have that wisdom and to step back and bring in expertise when something is out of their zone of genius in order to continue to lead others towards success through that line 4, which is known as the abdicator. So really just abdicating things that are outside of their zone of genius, delegating those things, because they're here to model what it's like to live out their truth, to live their authenticity in the world. And this is based in self-awareness and self-acceptance. So again, it's important for them to take their time through that second stage in order to reflect and integrate what they've learned. So what's the key to health and happiness for 4-6s? Well, like I mentioned earlier in this video, the quality of life for a 4-6 is directly tied to the quality of their relationships. And the key to health and happiness for them is to be guided by their strategy and authority in order to discern which of these relationships and experiences are correct for them to invest their energy into, correct for them to engage into. And this can lead them to the right opportunities and save them from unnecessary rejection and stress. So last but not least, who are some famous 4-6s? Well, we have David Beckham, a famous soccer player who is a 4-6 emotional manifesting generator, and we have the Dalai Lama, who's a 4-6 emotional generator. And we can see in both of these cases, who are both totally different, but they're basically both people who have become influential leaders in their own way, and they've gained recognition in both of their respective networks and communities. For example, with Beckham, he was a very popular and well-known soccer player, and it wasn't even as if he was one of the most talented players of all time, but he was known to be hardworking and passionate by his peers. And even his former coach commented that he inspired his teammates through his performances. He was a winner, he was a leader, and people followed him. And this is the definition of what a 4-6 embodies. He also became really successful through his personal brand and just had a ton of brand endorsements. So you can see that a lot of his success came through his network and just his natural capacity as an influencer. And now he's retired, but he's a family man and has 5 kids with Victoria Beckham. And he's been with her for many, many years. So I can only imagine that as he goes on to this third stage, being, it's all about being a role model for his children. And this is something that brings him a lot of fulfillment in his life. With Dalai Lama, this is someone who's recognized as the most famous Buddhist teacher in the world. And he was most famous for his role as well in the liberation of Tibet and his role as an activist. He never had the intention of building a network. It was just a natural unraveling that happened as he followed what brought him meaning and purpose and fought for what he felt was right, which was a huge part of his life's work. So this just naturally attracted the attention of people around him, who then followed his work and his teachings. So you can see how in both cases, even though they're totally distinct people, that they really did have this influencer leader dynamic to them and through their life path. So now we've come to the end of this video, but if you're wanting to get that extra help to help you understand your profile and get a holistic overview of this aspect of your chart in the context of your entire chart, I do offer one-to-one human design readings that include a 90-minute Zoom call. Plus, you get a customized 30-page human design blueprint for your own learning and reflection that you can always use as a resource guide. So I'll leave all of the information and a link for you in the description down below. And this brings me to the end of this episode where we answered the following questions. What is the 4-6 profile? What are the characteristics of the 4-6 profile? What's the public role and leadership style of the 4-6? What are the keys to health and happiness for 4-6s? And we also went over 2 examples of 4-6 profiles in real life. So if you enjoyed this video, I'd be so grateful if you could show me some love, hit that like button, and hit subscribe to continue learning more about the wonderful and insightful human design system. So with that said, have an amazing day or evening wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.